Sarah Aronson, welcome to Into the Words, a podcast from the Highlights Foundation Retreat Center.
Hi.
Today in our cabin, we have Sarah Aronson visiting with us. Sarah, say hello. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Sarah Aronson. I am a writer who lives in the great state of Illinois in Evanston, just outside Northwestern University. I am the author of a number of books of different genres, from YA and Headcase to middle grade Beyond Lucky and the Wish List series to my latest book, a picture book biography, Just Like Rube Goldberg.
Oh, fantastic. My daughter read that to me last night. It was great. Thank you.
How does she feel about Professor Lucifer Gorgonzola Butts?
That I did not ask her. So you're here this week at the Highlights Foundation. You're leading a workshop called Getting to Know Your Novel, and you gave a talk yesterday. Can you tell us a little bit about that talk and the...
Sure. So my talk was to move forward, look back. And I love giving this lecture at this particular retreat because we've been doing a lot of moving forward, but perhaps, and probably all of us, are also in the process of getting stuck or facing roadblocks. And if we haven't yet, we will in the future. So what do you have to do when you have hit a plateau with your manuscript and you're not sure what to do next? And my philosophy is to look back, and to look back in three ways. To look back at the moment that idea sparked your imagination, and really literally to think about where you were, how you responded, what you did next, all the things that came into the excitement and thrill of having an idea that you thought might become a novel for young people. I like to think about the first few words I jotted down, my first thoughts about the setting, the character, all the things that place where I had that idea came into play and began to inspire me. The second piece of backstory we look at is our own backstory, our own stories, our own histories. My kids will usually tell me if I'm talking too much about one theme or another to just go write a book about it already. But sometimes I have to intentionally mine for the things that will help me to get to know this particular novel I'm working on. So I mine those memories, and I think about what Melanie Crowder calls your signposts, the stories you tell over and over again that define your truest heart. And then finally, we look at the backstory of the characters themselves, their origin stories, their stories of how they began to see themselves in one certain way, the stories of when they decided they wanted something so badly they were willing to not even be close to themselves to get what they want, the stories that really set up the obstacles, the internal emotional obstacles of the novel. And when I can think about all three of those things, those backstories, I would say usually I am unstuck and know exactly how to finish my novel.
And off you go. Switching gears, talk to me a little bit about your writing practice.
I love that you call it a practice, because that is truly what it is. I am a writer who has to sort of trick herself into the practice of writing. And I have a variety of tricks to get me going. Kathy Appelt once told me, just write 5 minutes a day. Jennifer Jacobson said, just write 9 lines a day. Those things worked for me for a while. But then sometimes I found myself writing the same lines over and over, or looking at that same chapter for 5 minutes. So my practice right now is based on the Pomodoro method. I set a timer for 25 minutes. I write forward, never writing back, for those 25 minutes. When the bell goes off, I have 10 minutes to do anything I want, but really nothing. So no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, no reading the newspaper. Either I lie down, or I take a walk, or I do a dish. Well, rarely do I do a dish. I take a walk over to Lake Michigan. I spend about 10 minutes doing nothing. And during that time, the words I have written on the page and the blank space, the blank time, will usually offer me one more idea, and then I write for 25 more minutes. If I can do 3 of those, I've got my 2 pages to 5 pages a day. If I feel the need for more, I do that. But usually at that point, I'm on to reading published books or reading manuscripts for my next retreat.
And so this is a practice you're trying to do daily as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And do you have a favorite time of day?
Absolutely in the morning.
Okay.
So I like to get up. My son has been getting better and better at making cappuccino. He delivers the cappuccino. If he speaks, he knows he's in trouble because I am already journaling. I really like to journal with a pencil first thing in the morning to draw some pictures. For those of you who have trouble or are in perfectionist syndrome, I highly suggest drawing a storyboard or just squares or a picture of your character or make yourself a bet. So when I go backwards too many times in my manuscript, I have to pay Cystic Fibrosis Foundation $10.
All right. Talk to us about your latest book.
I love my latest book. It is a picture book biography called Just Like Rube Goldberg. And I love everything about it. I got the idea when I was listening to some other friends read some picture book biographies. And I thought, who would I write about if I was going to do this? And I remembered that at age 5, I saw Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And I made the breakfast machine when I got home. And I broke 12 plates, or maybe 8. But now we've gotten to 12 in the story. And my mother quickly bought plastic plates so that we would not break anymore. And I fell in love with Rube Goldberg. Over the years, I've watched a lot of kids make Rube Goldberg machines. And the other spark of inspiration was when somebody told me that he was an inventor and that's why they were making these machines. And I realized he was not an inventor. He's just famous for inventing things. And so that's where the seed of that book began. The art by Robert Neubecker is amazing. And I love sharing it with kids. And I love reading the book with hand motions. And I love when they start laughing, at least one kid falls off his chair.
Ah.
It's so much fun. But it's also fun to talk about creativity and looking closer and the power of laughter and the power of following your dreams.
So just take me on a little overview of your school visit that you're doing with this Rube Goldberg.
So if they haven't read the book yet, I love reading the book, and I make them do certain things with their hands. They wave their hands for Rube Goldberg. They draw when I say draw. They open a newspaper when I say big time newspaper. After I'm done reading, we talk about how chain reactions are like stories, and I give them some tips and some ideas about science and the arts. And then I give them a copy of Just Like Rube Goldberg, and we make a human Rube Goldberg machine to return that book to the library.
Oh, cool.
If you check out my website, you can start to see a lot of schools are doing it. Some small, some very large, some set to music.
Oh, what an interactive way to get everyone to participate.
It's amazing. It's fun. It takes that kid who might not be sure about reading and puts a book in their hand for even a moment to see what it feels like and to laugh with an author and talk about creativity, that there are no limits, no bounds. We can do anything.
Oh, great. So what are you working on currently?
Oh, I'm working on a variety of things. I'm working on a picture book that was actually inspired by my research of Just Like Rube Goldberg. one of the things I love about being a writer is that ideas find me. Curiosity opens the world to ideas. So I found out while I was working on Just Like Rube Goldberg that after the 1906 earthquake, only one fire hydrant worked in the whole city.
Oh boy.
So that fire hydrant is now called the Little Giant. It saved the mission. It's sort of like the Hanukkah story.
Wow.
And I wrote a picture book about that. I'm in the process of getting it ready to go out the door. I have a picture book called Brand New Bubby about blended families that I'm getting ready to edit. And I'm working on a novel called The President of Nothing.
Wow. And so how do you choose which one you're going to work on?
So Walter Dean Myers once said that he chooses his projects. He works on multiple projects, but that he chooses one for morning, one for afternoon, and one for night. And so the one for morning is my novel because it needs the most work right now. That's my best brain, and I need the most time. After lunch, I work a little bit on one of those picture books because they're toward the end of the process. And then at night, I have what everyone at Highlights knows me for, a peach sorbet, a project just for me that nobody knows about, not going to talk about it. And I work for a few minutes, maybe one Pomodoro on that book every single night.
I like it. Oh. One of our themes at the Highlights Foundation, I feel, is this community and this idea of mentorship. And I wonder if you might just talk for a minute about community, mentorship, how those things work for you or don't work for you.
Well, nothing is more important to a writer's life than a safe community. A place where they can share their ideas, where they can share their triumphs, and they can share the stuff that is not triumph and those stepping stones. As a community, we can all lift each other up. There's room for everyone. And together, we can help each other to take each next step. I am not a person who uses the word mentor. When I work with a writer, I call it a fellowship. I believe that my job is to read the manuscript and talk to the person and give them the tools to make the decisions about their manuscript. I'm here to ask the questions, to answer questions as well, to have a debate, to get their brain swirling in all the directions that their book might take them. The word mentor is not my favorite because it implies expertise or power, and I never want to offer a to-do list. I always want to offer the power to the writer to create the book that they want to make.
I like that perspective. Okay, so before we head back to the barn, there's one last question. There's always room for 1, 2, or 20 more books, and I wonder what books are on your shelf right now? What are you reading, or what have you read recently?
So I've been reading some pretty intense stuff lately, different from what I'm writing right now. So I just finished White Rose by Kip Wilson, which was many tissues. The Bridge Home by Padma, who I don't even have words. I loved that book so much.
Beautiful.
I put it down, I wiped my eyes, and I started reading again so that I could laugh at the places I wanted to laugh again and feel that hope and the promise for the future. I loved that book. And now I'm reading Internment by Samira Ahmed. And I'm disturbed and scared at the same time by the veracity of the text and the possibility that this could be our world in the near future. It's a wonderful book.
Well, thank you for joining us into the words at the Highlights Foundation.